All right, YouTube, I'm back. I'm making another video, and I was afraid I wouldn't have anything to point with because I couldn't find my umbrella, but I got this. It's a nice microfiber duster. I was going to go out and cut some trees today. Now that I'm done stocking up on toilet paper, I only have about 700 pounds of toilet paper. I thought that would probably be enough to get me through the summer. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do with it. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to eat it. So I tried that. I tried cooking it like oatmeal. And if you put enough maple syrup on it, it's really not that bad. So I guess I should be totally immune. Hope so. The reason I'm here is that I was getting ready to go out and cut my trees. And I decided to look at the internet on the way out for some reason. And it was a bad idea because I saw an article featuring a doctor from Johns Hopkins University. And he was saying basically that we should all panic and that the coronavirus is much more widespread than we understand. And for a minute I thought, oh no, I'm totally wrong, because I did this yesterday. I put together a really simple differential equation and tried to make a rough estimate of how many coronavirus infections and deaths there were going to be. And this was based on, coincidentally I guess, a Johns Hopkins website which lists the detected cases and deaths and everything in real time. It goes up every day. And I probably at the time said, if the data is no good, then neither is this. But it's the best I had. And one of the things that I realized, and I should have said, I thought about this later, what you really need is the death toll. You don't need these numbers. These are the cases, and this down here is the final global deaths by like June 5th. 150,000 roughly. You don't really need these case numbers. Nobody cares how many people get coronavirus. And the reason is it's a mild disease. Nobody cares if you get the flu. I've had pneumonia, not a big deal, didn't go to the hospital, walked around, got over it. Nobody cares if you get a little bit sick, and coronavirus is a mild disease. What people care about is this number down here. This is the only number that matters, the death number, which is still very, very small, and it's still increasing slowly. And by the way, it's right in line with my prediction. So, why is the death number the only... Well, I already told you why the death number is the only one that matters. But the other thing is the death number is much more reliable. So if I had used the death number instead of the case number, I didn't have the death number. I didn't write it down. I was only interested in the number of cases, so I didn't write down... I started out on March the 5th, and I didn't write down the total number of deaths. So I didn't have it on hand to work with. But if I had, I should have just projected... I could have, and I should have, just projected the number of deaths that would occur. The death number is very solid. And the reason is this. If you have a mild case of coronavirus, like just about everybody, you might not go to the doctor. I certainly won't. The post-Obamacare doctor situation is not very good, and I don't want any part of it. And also, where I live, you don't get a lot of American doctors. You get people... They have an incentive program for doctors from foreign universities who really can't get jobs in major cities to come to places where, like the one where I live. And I'm sure they probably do a good job, but I really would like to have an American doctor who didn't have to be sent here like somebody participating in forced busing, So anyway, if you have this disease, it's probably going to be mild, and you may not want to go to the doctor. And so you may not get tested, okay? And also, supposedly, there aren't that many testing kits in certain countries. And they're blaming Trump for that, like he, like it's all his fault. I'm sure there were tons of testing kits available when Obama was in office, and Trump just burned them all. Anyway, what am I trying to say here? The figures for actual cases, the figure's never going to be as high as the real number. And that's a mathematical certainty because some people aren't going to get tested. You're never going to have more people, unless there's a lot of false positives on the test, and we haven't heard anything about that, so I'm going to say it doesn't happen. Unless we have false positives, we're only going to test a certain number, a certain fraction of the people, and only that percentage is going to show up, But if we start testing more people, it can go up. The total number of cases can go up. And this guy from Johns Hopkins wanted to make that sound like bad news. Well, he's wrong. It's very good news, and I'll tell you why. The higher the actual case number is, the better the disease looks, because the death number is fixed. It's solid. It's reliable. When someone dies, we know it. Their butt goes to the morgue, and they look at the body, and they know what killed him. Okay? Believe me, if you die right now with something that sort of looks like the flu, and they haul you into the hospital, they're going to find out whether you have coronavirus. I mean, come on, have some common sense. So we know how many people are dying from this thing. That number is rock solid. So we can count on this, not this figure, this is the one that I projected, but you know what I'm saying. You can count on the death figure, the actual death figure. You can't count on the test figure, okay? So, little fourth grade math here. Let's get away from calculus. Where's my chalk? Oh, good, I have chalk. So, this doctor said they're saying there's 1,600 U.S. cases. Okay? And I will just write now. And he says actual cases. Okay. That's what he says. And we're supposed to be scared. Well, the big problem with this is the death numbers haven't changed. We know the death numbers. And right now, actually, I don't even know what the death numbers are in the United States, but they're pretty low. I mean, right now, you got to give people time to die. That sounds like a cold thing to say. I don't know if it would make sense to look at the death numbers in the U.S. alone right now, because it hasn't been here that long. But we know what the death numbers were in China, and we know what they are in other places. Anyway, what they're telling us, the guy from the CDC, Fauci, he's saying that he has this idea that the real death toll is going to turn out to be around 1%. And he was saying this presumably based on our questionable testing figures for people who are still alive. So, 1,600, it's about 1/30th of 500,000. It's about a 300th of 500,000. Did I say 500,000 over here? I'm absent-minded. It's about a 30th of this, and it's about a 300th of that. So divide 1% by 30, and you come up with this. Isn't that correct? Right? Because here's 1%, and here's 1% divided by 10. Yeah, that'd be correct. And so that's supposed to be a 3. Okay, you see what I'm saying here? The flu is supposed to be, I think it's a 30th of a percent that it kills. So you can see that if it turns out this guy is right about this huge number of cases we haven't seen yet, in actuality, this thing may have a death rate that's much lower than the flu. So, I don't know. I'm just annoyed. I'm just annoyed that people aren't, not only aren't we seeing calculus, but we're not seeing fourth grade math, which is what this is. This is obvious. We know how many people are dying. We know. I mean, worldwide we do. Here we're going to know, in a week or so or something like that. Figures are going to start to smooth out, and things are going to happen, and we're going to know. We're going to know how many people die from this thing. And as testing improves, we're going to find more cases, according to this guy, and in all likelihood, this is the kind of thing we're going to see. And you have to remember, tobacco kills hundreds of thousands of people every year in the United States. The flu kills a whole bunch of people. The common cold kills 5,000. Chickenpox gets a few. So we're spazzing out over basically nothing. I mean, I know that people are going to say, well, that means you're insensitive, you don't care about the people who are dying. Well, I do care about the people who are dying, but I'm not going to spaz out. I'm not spazzing out over the people who get the flu and die. I'm not spazzing out over the people who get a cold and die. What makes this different? So even though I do have 700 pounds of toilet paper in my garage, and I'm doing my best to turn it into delicious dishes that are high in fiber, because it does cure coronavirus if you eat enough of it. And if you put hand sanitizer sauce on it, it's even better. In spite of those reasonable, sane precautions that I'm taking, and the fact that I now live in a concrete bunker underneath my driveway, I'm really not that worried. So I'm going to stick my neck out yet again and predict, and I know this is a guess, I know, but I don't care. I'm fed up with the surgical masks. And the guy, did you see there's a guy in the news, he has 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, and he thinks he's a good person. He says he's making the market more efficient. He was trying to sell this stuff for like $40 a bottle or something. In Florida, he'd be in prison right now. He wouldn't be in prison. He'd be arrested for a felony. You can't do that in an emergency in Florida. They passed a law because of the hurricanes. After Andrew, people were buying generators for $300 and selling them for $1,000. And they were buying water and selling it for $10 a bottle. I'm just tired of the hysteria. I'm tired of the craziness. So I'm going to stick with what I'm saying. Based on what I've seen with the death numbers and all that, I really think this is not that bad a disease. Also, an interesting thing has happened in China. We don't see the statistics changing in China the way they used to. China went up to like 80,000 cases and then just pretty much stopped. So I don't know why people aren't talking about that. Does that mean information is not coming out of China? Does that mean they're not testing? I doubt it. After all the negative publicity they got, I really doubt it. Something's going on. There's a popular preacher on YouTube named T.B. Joshua, and he said that God had given him a prophecy and that the epidemic was gone. He said it was raining in Wuhan, China, and it was washing away the epidemic. That's really interesting, because when he said that, suddenly the new cases stopped being reported. So anyway, I don't know what's happening, but man up and stop buying toilet paper, okay? Just knock it off. That's all I got to say. I'm out.